Welcome to COMM2025 Fundamentals of Communication Lecture Day, Day 1. We're going to have another day where we explore some of the fundamentals. So this close exercise that you're using, that little handout with fill in the blanks. Anybody going to be a teacher? That's called a close exercise. Did you already know that?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Not close, right? C-L-O-Z-E. That close exercise will actually go for 2 days. So maybe we won't have to stress to just get every little thing. The PowerPoint, as many of you may have already found, is on our course outline. So if you miss something, yell out as we go for us to slow down, to clarify, or go to the PowerPoint and you can find the answer. I've actually numbered each of the slides, and on the close exercise, you will see that it says slide 10, slide 5, that kind of thing. When we communicate, we want to make it as easy as possible for our audience to be able to do what we want them to do. So we have to be simple and clear. And we have to put those little guiding things, like me sticking in, this is on this slide, and putting a slide number as well. Many of you have expressed in your SAAT or in your exit card that you want to gain a little more confidence. We've got these magical brains in our head, and we've got that rational system, and we've got that limbic system that's going to throw out all of those hormones and signals that get us quite emotionally involved. And if we can calm with some of our thought patterns, and then some of the tricks you're going to see when we talk about anxiety, or you do online discussion number 2, some of those tricks, we're going to try to match those systems up, match those levels of the hemispheres of the brain up, and calm ourselves. Online discussion number 2 is worth up to 18 bonus points. And it's meaning you watch a couple of short videos that I have created, one on anxiety, one on confidence. I mean, we're talking 5 minutes, 8 minutes. Then you watch 3 short videos on things that extend that message. You put it all together in a post, an online discussion post. That's worth 6 points. Then you read the other people's as they come in, and you reply collegiately to your peers, to at least 2 of your peers. 6 more points, 6 more points. You get 18 bonus points. That's the biggest cache of bonus points you get at 1 point. So if you're interested, and if particularly this topic is something you find of interest, check that out. One of the first things in calming the nervous system that many students find comfortable. They don't, you know, you might be more metaphysical, and I'm a little bit of all of that stuff, or you might be more into the musculatures and the physiology of things. But one of the ones that I think many people find they can do comfortably is physical progressive relaxation. I actually listen to some of those things at night, and I'll do what the speaker is saying, kind of person with a voice that you like, and do the physical relaxation on the nights that I have a hard time sleeping. It works. So let's just do this as we sit in our chairs. This is going to be funny, and we're all going to make faces and things, so we can do it together. You ready? We're going to start at the top of our head, and I want you to just scrunch up your face. Scrunch it up tight. Hold it, and relax. How many of you just watched me and didn't do it? Okay, then we're going to go to the shoulders, and I want you to tighten them. Tighten, isolate those shoulders and tighten them. I can see you. And relax. Okay, now we're going to go for the core. So you got your tight muscles in your stomach, and you're probably right around here too, your chest. Your upper arms are biting in there. Feel that tension. Are you really tightened? Feel the tension. So then you want to exhale. Okay, to the glutes. You ready? Tight tight. I'd say, yeah, but tight, you know, a long time. Tight, tight. It's probably getting your upper thighs a little bit. And release. Okay, we're gonna go from the knees down. Oh, and my thighs are doing it too. So how about just the legs? My toes are curling. Tightening up, trying to tighten up my thighs. Okay, tight. Where are you feeling the tension? Goes back to my core a little bit. Is it yours? My toes are curled. Are yours? Release. And let's just do our arms for the last bit. But we start with our fists, and I feel it right here, and my guns tight, tight. 3, 4, feel the tension. Do you feel the change? Do you feel a little more comfortable and relaxed than you did? That's physical progressive relaxation, and just one of many tricks, tips that speakers can use before they go to present. I had one student who felt sincerely that she needed to jump up and down. You've seen athletes do that on the football field or the basketball court. And cheerleaders do it too, you know. And they get excited, and that somehow centers them. I had a student that literally would run this hallway and come back before she would present. Find what works for you, all right? And know that this is a safe place and the audience wants you to succeed. So we'll get there. We'll talk about anxiety and confidence later. But meanwhile, if that's an area of interest for you, check out discussion number 2. So today we literally are doing COMM theory. What's our purpose? And what's something I call OCD? What do you think OCD stands for? Repetitive movements. What is that called? Obsessive compulsive disorder? Yeah, no, it's organization, content, and delivery. It's what we evaluate you on with your speaking. We're going to do a little exercise on audience, and probably tomorrow we're going to get to overcoming barriers, increasing the appeals, the way that we can connect with and extend our message to that audience and with that audience, and then cool stuff about delivery. We are going to start with theory and models, but I really want you to understand that I do not focus on test taking. Speaking is scary enough, and some people aren't test takers. So this information is for your brain. It is not for you to regurgitate later. The close exercise is enough of an exercise for you to write things down and have something to go back to and use as a reference. So do you get the fry? Okay, it's not on a test. Okay. The definition, I love that, pens are at the ready. The definition of the communication process is transmission of a message from a sender to a receiver in a way that's understood. It's understandable. And by the way, I know these TVs look like a small font to people way back there. If you need to move, we have a whole row up here. Or just drive your chair up. That's okay. Okay. Oops. If you have actual communication, not just somebody's told us something and told us something, but you really connected your message to your audience, this is going to be, that process is going to be a guide to realizing understanding, communication, effective communication. Slow me down if I phrase it and say it differently than it's on the sheet and it messes you up. Okay. Our buddy Aristotle, have you heard his name before? Fascinating fellow in history, right? Fascinating guy. studied many, many things, taught many students many, many things. And one of the things his students did, probably his students recorded it, because he was an orator. He was a speaker, not a writer, right? That was at that time, kind of on the cusp before they started writing everything down. But his students would write down what he said and became the basis, most likely, of this book on rhetoric. One aspect that he really explored so well. In our links, we have videos about Aristotle and Socrates and some other very cool dudes who have had some way deep background. But I love this book. In fact, for a graduate class, I had to study all of this. My notes are all, I've got Post-its in here and underlines and so forth. Very interesting. But then again, communication is like my thing. Aristotle had a model where he starts with a speaker, and then he says, here's my message, my speech, right? My purpose of my message. And he put with it the occasion. So did I write occasion underneath the arrow on your sheet? Okay. He says, our purpose depends on what the occasion is. And if we do our message well, it's going to go to that audience. And then the audience is going to have some kind of an effect. It's going to have an effect on the audience. Might even have an effect on their affect. You psychology majors get that? You get it, teacher? You're not going to be a teacher, are you, Riley? Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? Okay, well, then you need to know about effect and affect, don't you? Affect is what you see in their face and the emotions that are coming through. Okay, so what's the effect? Aristotle also gave us something we're going to talk about a lot. He says that all forms of communication are persuasive. You might be informing us. There's probably a little persuasion in there. You might be showing us how to do something, persuading us to do it the way you said, right? You might be entertaining us. You might be literally trying to convince us to do something, persuasion. So to Aristotle, everything is persuasive, but he says that the three pillars, the three things that support all of our communication are those appeals. The logos, do you hear those in high school? What's the other ones? Ethos and pathos. And I say pathos, you may say pathos, tomato, tomato. I've heard it said a lot of different ways. I think dictionary.com is pathos. But the bottom line is, everybody with us? Logos is all that logic, those things that really appeal to the logical mind of our listeners, the facts, the proof. Logos can be done with the structure. This is, I don't think it's on there, the structure of how we organize our message, but it's also all those things where you put a comparison or an analogy or a metaphor in there, and we can make that logical connection to whatever your message is and understand it better. You think logos is facts? It is that too. Ethos, I want you to look at as authority and as ethics. If Aristotle says ethos is most important, if we do not believe in the credibility of the speaker, we're not going to, if we don't believe in the authority of what they're saying, we're not going to believe their message. We're going to put a barrier up. How many of you have a certain news channel you like to watch or listen to? Sort of, a couple of faces like me. Don't want to think about when you hear a buzzword from the other side, because we know that media seems to have some divide right now. And I imagine there's a lot of comm research going on about it. But if you hear buzzwords from the other side, don't you feel that barrier going like that? If we don't believe in the credibility of the source, if we don't understand why they're believable, then we're less likely to accept their message. So ethos is really important. You as a speaker definitely want to build up an understanding to your audience that you're a believable person, why you're credible. Pathos is what? Emotion. Do you watch the old-fashioned commercials that are just somebody talking with you and they might have the box of soap on there? It's just not maybe as visually connecting and emotionally appealing as some of the more current ones that can use technology and feel moving or tell a story. Something that's going to grab our attention and maybe our heart, might terrify us, might just make us feel all gushy, might, any of those things that make us happy. Anything that grabs the emotion is a pathos, appeal of pathos. Okay? You've probably heard all that before, but it bears repeating because throughout this term, as you do your speeches and your stories, we're going to ask you to find ways to raise the appeal. Okay? So let's talk models. Many times, communication research started more in the 20s and 30s and 1920s and 30s, that is, so about 100 years ago. And often there's an economic reason for certain studies. And the economic reason behind this first model was let me get it right, Shannon and Weaver's 1948 model for Bell Telephone. Bell Telephone owned everything. They had all of the communication system of telephones. And they did a study and they said, communication is the sender, and then the sender has to put together the message, encode it. Then they have to send it on a certain channel, send that message in a certain media or a certain channel to a receiver. The receiver has to get the message, decode it, and figure out what it's saying. And then they might add feedback. They might ask a question. Even the first telephone story, was it Bell who did the first telephone? They say the story was his assistant was in another room and they said something and the assistant called back and said something and he heard it over the line. So that was feedback. He heard the feedback and he understood. Now he got it. There was an understanding. Communication had occurred. David Berlow in 1960 expanded that model, that linear model that Shannon and Weaver had done. And ever since then, boy, we have tons of models. I'm going to get the computers and talk about this book. Okay. Here's another model that has to do, it sounds a little more like computers, doesn't it? You start with source, not just sender. You encode the message, transmit it, decode it, and the receiver gets it. The feedback can come around, and then you can check if there's understanding. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of noise. For those of you in the far back, these lines all say noise, 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 things that can get in the way. To effectively communicate, we have to have that model in place, that process in place, but we also have to realize that we all come, listen, let me just read it. We must realize that we were all different in the way we perceive the world. And we have to use this understanding as a guide to our communication with others. By the way, do you know who Tony Robbins is? Probably, sorry, only the reconnect people will know. If you guys can think of a really good influencer that is young, let me know who that is, who says this kind of same thing. We perceive the world in our own way. So we might be understanding something that you said in a different way. We have to be able to figure out that audience so that we can connect our message to them. Here's another model. We take, the sender has their past experiences, their knowledge, their feelings, their attitudes. And we go ahead and send the message through the media, and that receiver has their own past experiences, feelings, knowledge, attitudes. And they didn't put that, oh, there's feedback, good. The transmitters and the feedback. Senders, receivers. Again, this model puts in noise. And this time they define it. Noise can be internal. Maybe my head's in a certain place. Do you ever get kind of wrapped up in your head and you're focused on one thing and it's hard to get off that thing that's kind of critical to you right then? Somebody may say something to you and you are not perceiving it because internally, I mean, you might hear it, but you don't really get to perceive it because your head's too busy thinking of something else, and that's how you interpret it. Or it can be external. Somebody could go screaming down that hallway. Somebody could be pounding on a door. Your TV could be too loud. I live with my mother who's older, and she has that TV up loud all the time. And I'm so tired of football games. Sorry. And I'm so tired of mystery shows. And I'm so tired of Nat Geo. All good things, but you just, when you hear them 24/7 and they're loud, that's external noise. Maybe you have some external noise in your life. How many kids do you have? 3, I've got 2, okay. That's a little external noise, right? All of that can mess up some of this environment, some of this actual communication. Everybody good on your clothes so far? Oops. When you're doing your speeches, and I hope that you're not terrified, we'll work on it. But when you're doing your speeches, no matter, somebody, our door people, who's our door person? Was it the guy who just left? Okay, no matter how well it's delivered, a speech's success has got to be measured in terms of how the audience responds. In terms of audience response. Are you getting that message across? Is there actually communication? And I think I only have one more model, but it's worthy and important, even though it's from like the 1960s. It's very relevant to today. Okay. Stuart Hall in the 60s, so you know what's going on in the 1960s? Yell at me. Television. Did you know, did it say television on here? Because by the way, Awesome You, television is one of the medium that he was exploring. What else? Vietnam War was going on. So we were drafting a lot of our young men over to Vietnam. And what was happening in the United States, 60s, think 60s. Civil rights was going on, so there was some protesting and upheaval regarding that. They didn't have voting rights and all kinds of things. Or they were lessened to the ability to do things. What else? The song's long haired, 50 people don't need to reply or something like that. Anybody hear about that? You hear the word hippies before? Okay, so what do you think of when you think hippies? Tie-dye. What else? Long hair. Saggy clothes. Maybe drugs, right? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You ever hear of those terms? A lot of changes were occurring in society. And the TV maybe wasn't reflecting that. Stuart Hall studied how communication was during that time, and he came up studying TV with the mass communication. Instead of just me sending to you or me sending to the class, he was thinking, we got somebody, mass media, corporations begin, right? Sending their messages out to large groups of people. It's hard to understand that people didn't all have TVs and fancy phones that were able to see your face and get all kinds of things, but it didn't exist, right? So he studied that, and he said that mass producers of media could encode their message, and then they'd shoot it out, and the receivers from all over the place in the United States would recode it with whatever their perceptions are and decode it and get their message. But people were underrepresented too. Not all cultures, not all races were represented. He did not challenge the basic form of communication transmission, but he sort of infused it with some terms that you're hearing nowadays: Marxism and semiotics. Semiotics is a fancy word for looking at the signs and symbols of things. And there's a huge depth of study in that. All right, so let's look at his model. The sender encodes, sends it out to all these receivers, but it's got to go through a lot of noise, and it's going to be affected by where the people are physically, what's their physical context, what's their education, what's their gender, what kinds of things do they believe, what are their ethics, what's their role in society, and what's the cultural context, and how they understand things. That's going to affect how that message is received. Okay. Let's put this with something. This was his model. He said the hippies were often thought of as terrorists. That sound like a word you've heard today, right? Now I want you to look, because this is actually something we're going to apply. This is not just Charlie Brown's teacher thing. The terrorists had communication, and some people are going to sympathize with it. Even my mother, who was an Air Force woman herself, an Air Force participant, and then married an Air Force man and was a good Air Force wife and raised the kids as Air Force brats, which is the actual term they use. Even my mother began at one point to say, something's not right with this, based on communication, based on some of the TV. You'd have your sympathizers, and that would be a dominant reading of agreeing with whatever the message is. You'd have, in this case, he studied government, and they would oppose whatever the hippies or their terrorists were saying, and they'd have the neutrals. Neutrals are the ones who can change their mind. If you find the way to appeal, whether it's logos, ethos, or pathos, if they disagree with you, they're kind of neutral, they're more likely to accept your message if you can appeal to them. This will have more meaning as we start doing our speeches and you hear these words where it has meaning. Okay? Now, to apply it to today, think of a topic. What did I use? Eco Club, yeah. Tomorrow and the next day are our spring festival, or welcome back to spring. Did you know that on campus? So they're having whatever they're having to welcome us back. Probably food, maybe music, maybe a table of some gift or something. I don't know. They always do something. It's tomorrow and the next day. It's probably in your RadarNet email. It's in the Rome State social media. And one of the clubs is the Ecology Club that I've mentioned before, Cumberland's Ecology Club. If my students decide that they want to put out a message and want to convince you to come and help us distribute trees or clean up Centennial Park or something, you're going to have people who are interested, they're sympathizers, and they're going to have a dominant reading with your message. They will get your message, and maybe they'll even take action on it. If the Eco Club, the person on the other side is going you're just a bunch of tree huggers, and they have that perception, or you're just, I have no time to do that kind of thing. They are going to have an oppositional reading, and then the neutrals, I hope, are the ones that will get to sign up tomorrow and the next day and say, well, I might be interested in coming to clean up the park or take down some basic trees. How's that for a plug at the same time? Shameless, totally shameless. Woo! Now let's do a summary. On this paper, you have your name and your date, and names and dates are going to be important for things, particularly dates at the end of the class, because you might want to use some of this as fodder for your data for your final paper. But all I want you to do is just write a sentence that either summarizes, captures an idea, compares something that you've already known to what you've gained in the last 10 minutes or 15 minutes or half a minute. Yeah, write it right on that paper. Great question. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm doing all right.
If you have any question you want Jesse to ask or Riley to ask, just click on chat. I see that you guys have 2 chats there.
Yeah.
Chat with one another to keep you going.
Okay.
And I'll sign you in as a Zoom, so you're excused.
Okay.
Is there anyone that did not sign in? Because that's how I take attendance. Go ahead. And anybody that's finished summarizing, stand up and stretch your legs for a second. Get some blood going back to your brain. Maybe stand up and sit down a few times. I'm not kidding about the stand up, and I love the way that you guys drive to each other to help. We've only been half an hour in, but we've got another 50 minutes to go. So if you need to stand, move, feel free. So Rocky, you put a picture on. Yay.
Next class session, I'll get bonus points for that.
I did. And I said it well, didn't I? Oh, I love it. Thank you. I love to see how you help each other, make sure you've got all those lines filled in well. You doing okay back there? That's okay. That's when you ask her. And when you come up here, because these girls are giving answers.
Number 6.
Number 6, what did it say?
This person model adds messaging media as well as adding the single line.
What slide is it?
It says slide 1. I think the slides are all. Yeah.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Sorry about that. Thank you for telling me. Okay, so that one? Hey, Jesse, it sounds like I screwed up on the slide numbers.
Uh-oh.
All right, so tell me that line again, that number 6. Everybody, listen up and give her an answer to 6. Be loud.
Decoding of the message and media as well as adding receiver line.
Feedback.
Oh, okay.
Good women. Hey, and that's on number 11, right?
I got massive.
Active audience theory. Yeah, By the way, this whole book on communication theory, which is the 10th edition of Littlejohn and Foss, I had to, for my first class with my PhD, get this one and study it. It has so many different theories. Do you know how theories happen? They don't happen easily. Somebody has an idea, like Bell Telephone, Shannon and Weaver, and they do a bunch of searching and they get a lot of, what did the research previously show? You have to read a ton of research stuff. And they do figure out an experiment to test it. The bigger the experiment, the more real valid the experiment, the more likely that it's going to go into practice. Once it's been practiced, they say, this sounds like it's standing true. And that becomes a theory. This whole book is filled with different communication theories, different ways you can look at things. And it's great. There's great academic depth in this. Most of us think, oh, I know how to talk, I know how to communicate, right? There's so much to it, but it's kind of cool. Now I have to do the 11th edition for my current classroom. So I have my number.
I'm just gonna do 5.
Number 5, what is it, guys?
A blank one raises the wheels by using all 3 colors. Slide 10.
I can't hear while you yell at me. I didn't put my A's into that.
Okay, it says a blank one who speaks raises appeals by using all 3 pillars. And it says that it's on slide 10. I didn't know. A blank one who speaks.
A speaker? I bet it goes with, where am I? I bet it goes with that one.
See, I was thinking whether it was sender.
Oh, it could be a sender. A sender, one who speaks, but if it says one who speaks, I meant a speaker. Okay, you're helping me out. All right, so by the way, somebody is into fixing things. Fix which slide these things are on. Note the difficulties and what I need to fix, and I will give you bonus points. Some people are into that, and that'd be awesome. All right, we good? I never did do this one. So we're going to begin with a quick video. Remember how we said the sender and the receiver has to have understanding? Let's check this out after the ad.
So I've got my essay written, and I've been working on it for about a week. So now I'm going to show you how I use Grammarly.
Anybody use Grammarly? How can we define effective communication? I want you to lead a project. Oh no. Can you read that okay? Okay. I'll wait. Problem in communication is the illusion it has taken place. You use Grammarly? Anybody use Powtoons? Grammarly? Anybody use Powtoons? I don't know if it's like an old thing now, but did you like the graphics on that?
What is communication? We're going to give our best effort to answer that.
By the way, this guy, communication coach Alex Lyon, is awesome, but that's not what we're going to do. We're going to go back to our PowerPoint. Jesse, you cool? Jesse, can you tell Riley what you're seeing, please?
Okay.
Are you still seeing the PowerPoint?
No, I just see you.
Okay? Because I'm hiding my PowerPoint. I wonder if I turned it off. It's in our course outline, and it is in everything, all my stuff is on momentum. Not 5 extra points, but fix me. Please fix me. I love it. You know what? This is my first day of the week. I was here yesterday for office hours, as my faculty thing said, and I had opened up Zoom in case anybody came in. But that's it. It's the first day teaching, and I'm like, duh. Okay. Goodness. All right, let's get where we're going. We're going to go through everything that we just did. Come on, come on. You're a good woman. Oh, good. See, good. I'm not the only one. I actually heard, I used to say, I'm a very creative person. I work very hard to be quite organized because my students need that. But I used to hear somebody said, or I would say, I don't do time and space. Don't ask me the directions. Thank God for Siri, all that good stuff. But I heard a friend say, oh, that's not my spiritual gift. So time and space are not my spiritual thing.
Can you share your screen on Zoom?
Yes. Okay, so escape this. We'll learn together, guys. And by the way, at times, you will find that you will have difficulties with some of your technology. I'm not seeing my, which one is my PowerPoint on my share screen? And when that happens, we'll work with you. This is a safe place to screw up and learn. You have to get rid of some of this other stuff. Share that. Okay, you're seeing my desktop now with the share, correct, Riley? Okay, are you seeing the PowerPoint? Okay, so I'm going to go to new share, and there it is. I'm hoping. Did you get it now? Yep. Good, because you asked for what you needed. I was able to know that you weren't connected. So thank you. Great example, right? If there's a break, in this case, I'm the sender. The channel wasn't working, the media wasn't working. She asked about it and we were able to fix it. So yes. All right. Now we're going to talk more about what you're going to directly do in this class. We're going to have some very specific speaking opportunities, and each of them are going to have some purpose. And so we're going to explore purpose right now, and probably a little more tomorrow. We're going to do organization, content, and delivery stuff. When you tell a story, which is your next speech, just sharing a personal story, you will have a specific purpose. So what's your purpose? Well, we know audience is king. We want to connect our message with the people to whom we are speaking, to whom we are presenting. And before I go there, do you ever have an old English teacher tell you there are reasons that we write? What are they? Inform. Do we write to inform? Or we speak to inform? Entertain and persuade. Yeah. I add a fourth. I'm an old English teacher, about every grade level, and I've always added the fourth. I think sometimes we write just to cleanse, just to get it all out. That's Greek word, old Greek word, it's catharsis. Somebody Google that real fast. I may be having that spelled wrong. Catharsis. think I fixed that slide, but I remember another teacher had done an observation of my video when we were quarantining and said, you misspelled catharsis. Make sure I've got the right PowerPoint here and it's spelled right. Oh, good. Catharsis means to cleanse. When my 16-year-old daughter, who's now more than twice that age, called her grandmother, we were down in Florida, and she'd call her granny in Tennessee, Prep Orchard, and say, whoa, 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 whoa. You know, she'd just get it all out, and she felt better for it. You have a friend like that or a partner like that?
This is spelled CHARTHRS.
CHTR.
No, it's catharsis.
Oh, cathartic.
It's.
That's an adjective. This is a noun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just looking at the adjective. It's not catharsis, it's just catharsis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. Cool. All right, so we speak for all of these reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, the TH is supposed to be an S.
Oh, I got it. So I'm not fixed. I'm so glad I asked you to fix me. Oh, I stopped the thing because I closed the window. I'll be right back. You're saying that TH right here is S.
Yes, there you go.
Good. Okay, and I got it updated. That's cool. Okay, go back to share screen again. Go back to this. And go back to full screen. Ah, you are so awesome. Okay. Sometimes we may be trying to inform somebody, but we're also doing other things. Okay, I'm going to do new share again, and I'm going to, I don't know if it's this one. Is it, are you still on the editing page? Is that it? Cool. Good one. Heart, ethos, logos, all of that. Pathos, ethos, logos. Maybe combined with whatever we're doing. Interestingly, the 4 types of listening that have been identified totally align with the 4 purposes. So if you're doing appreciative listening, if you're doing empathetic listening, if you're doing comprehensive or comprehension listening, or you're doing critical listening, it actually aligns with inform, persuade, entertain, and catharsis. Match them up. I think it's on your page. Is it? Top of page 2, is that it? Top of page 3. All right, which one goes with informative? Yeah, comprehension. You know, at the end of your history chapters and science chapters, they have comprehension checks. Did the information get to you? Do you understand it? Do you understand it? Okay, so what kind goes with, give me another speaking purpose. Which one?
Persuade.
Persuade. Which one goes with that? The listener's going to be listening in what way? Thinking critically. Yes, they're going to evaluate what you're saying so that they can either accept it or reject it. They're thinking critically. Okay, so we did first inform and persuade. What's the other one? Okay, which listening type would go with that? Yeah, appreciative listening. Maybe it's just to enjoy. And by the way, we can enjoy something that makes us cry. How many of you cry at Hallmark commercials? or those dog commercials where everybody looks so pitiful and the music is swelling in the background, right? So it can be something that makes us laugh or cry, but generally something about it entices us and we may enjoy it. All right, and then the last one is catharsis. What kind of listening matches with that? Empathetic. if you have empathy, you're connecting with some emotional net. So you maybe are supporting in an emotional way. Okay. Now, I want you to think about a personal experience story. We're actually not going to do it for a couple of days, so don't freak on like, I gotta do it right now. I gotta commit to this one. It's not. We're just thinking about a personal story. Maybe you've told it to your family 100 times. Maybe it's something funny that happened or scary that happened. Think of a personal experience that you've had, and you probably retold that story before. You got one in your head? Think of one. One time, blah, 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 blah. One of those. Got it? You're smiling. Yes, the one you thought of first. Okay? Because you're not going to be sharing it to everybody. Okay? You got one? One time I broke my ankle going out to close the chickens. That's a true story. You got yours? No, think of one. I mean, like, think of one. You probably, maybe you told your cousins, everybody in your family knows this story about you. Got it? Okay. Got one, Emily? Okay. Yesterday, something happened. Does it help you if I put a time in it? One time, this happened. Did you ever get hurt? Did you ever make somebody laugh? Even maybe you were embarrassed? Or maybe it was you were horrified because something happened and you just got a hand up on your end. Any story. Just get one here. You're not going to have to share that one. Okay? You got one, Isaiah? Haley, you good? You good? Colby? Okay. I want you to roll to a shoulder partner, and all you give them is a one-liner. You don't have to tell them the story. I gave you a one-liner. One time, I broke my ankle going to the chickens, right? Trying to close the chickens. And then you're going to say, how do you want that audience to listen? Do you want them to listen to enjoy, appreciative listening, and I'm going to entertain them? Do you want them to be emotionally supportive and you're just going to tell the story in such a way it's cathartic? Are you going to tell them so that they'll understand? Are you going to tell them to persuade them of something? Okay. So how do you want the audience to understand? One liner, describe the story. How would you want your audience to listen? Go. It needs to be a triad, that's cool. Oh, goody, we're all partners. Sorry, man, you can write to Riley. Riley, he's going to type to you. I put my copy down somewhere. You get it? Did you two get it? You were fast. It was brief. You followed the directions. Some of these guys are trying to tell the whole story. Okay, did both sides get to share? Are we good? All right, Gracie, you guys, Alana, do you feel strong enough to share what you said? Okay, go for you. What did you say? What was your one-liner for the story? Okay, Gracie said that when her little brother is born, that was the story. She's going to describe about that, tell about that. How would you want people to listen? Just entertain them. So that could be funny, or it could be one of those ones where you grab our emotions and we go, oh, that's sweet. How about you? Yell at me again. Oh, so I see what your physical response is. Tell us how you want us to listen. Probably going to be entertaining. Okay. How about anybody else that wants to share? Because what you've done is applied our new knowledge, right? So how about somebody else that wants to just give us your one-liner? Go ahead, Riley. So it sounds like, since you said great laugh, it sounds probably entertaining. Yeah. I as a woman who has a son who just got engaged, I'd be horrified, but so it'll be interesting if you told that story from a different point of view. Did you guys see how you could probably take the baby being born and make it persuasive for like never be in the birthing room with your mother, or something like that, right? And you could change the message based on your purpose and how you want to treat your audience and you want them to respond. Okay, that's the big takeaway. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, okay. This is now what we're going to get into and probably take to the end of the class. We're going to talk about the way that we understand our audience. The fancy words are first demographics and then psychographics. If you are into business, you need to know these terms because you need to know your market. You need to know your consumers. If you are in a speech class, it is helpful to understand the people to whom you are speaking. Demographics include all the things many times we can physically see, but sometimes that we won't understand until we talk to them and get a little more. Demographics are age, gender, maybe profession. Sometimes we can see profession based on what they're wearing. How many people associate a white coat with some kind of medical doctor, right? So, or you see all the nurse students in their scrubs, we figure they're going into the medical field, right? If you are on a construction site and you're seeing everybody wearing hard hats, but one person's got a tie and a clipboard, you might think that's the engineer or some sort of a boss, right? You might presume some understanding of demographics based on location. Certainly in news, you hear, in my mother's national news that she watches, you hear people being defined by what part of the country they're in. When my girlfriends and I were single and we were going to the clubs, we would look for that red. Sometimes you did too. Sometimes marital status may or may not feel like it makes a difference to whom you're addressing. Psychographics are more value-based. What kind of personality elements that you feel and see, the things they express as their values. What kind of activities is the people in the audience what kind of activities are they engaged with? If you are working at a convention and you're presenting to a bunch of teachers, that you might craft your message in one way, but if you're presenting to a bunch of business people that are in marketing some kind of thing digitally, you might address them in a different way. Some of the appeals you use, Ethos, Logos, Pathos, would be shifted so that you can get your message across in a way that they understand. Again, interest, opinions. Again, this is a little more value-based, and sometimes you can do it based on what you've heard in the classroom from the people. When I do a presentation for very large groups, I try, can you imagine, to stand outside the door and get a sense of the room, greet people, shake a few people's hands as they're going in, ask them a question or two, and get a feel for something that I might be able to use to connect with those people later on. Yes, I call them out in the audience, if it's appropriate, if it works for whatever I'm doing. So learn about the psychographics. It used to be a little more predominant that in the demographics was race, but we know that we're a little bit more of a multicultural society now. Our governmental forms are slow to change, but they've got other notifications now where you can identify as something other than one or the other of this or that. Sometimes employment or side hacks would be those interests or activities. Those sometimes could fit into either the values that they have, maybe of hard work, or the demographics of they're in a particular field. So all those things, demographics, psychographics, let us know the audience. We need to know our audience if we can, so that we can craft our message for it. Before I get to levels of communication, let's talk about who are we as a group. We're going to do an activity. When you walk about the room, on this paper, something you know about it. I've already looked at what majors you have, what grade level you are within your progress of shape. This is that two businesses or organizations or resources. You've already done it on your exit card. You can list those two names, or you can list two others that you think are beneficial or that we need. If you're going to put need, put the word need next to it and write it down. Local business organizations or resources. Just list two. Your favorite food. A word that describes your values. What's a current thought running through your head? What's your biggest concern? What's your greatest joy? Okay, you see where they are? Got it? Okay. Riley, you're going to get to like give him a cue of what these things are. You can even take the sheets when everybody else is done and type them in and get an answer from him. Type in the next one, get an answer from him. Feel like it? Okay, Jesse? At the end of this, I'm going to take these papers and we'll put them up on the board. And if we have time, and we should have, we're going to let one student just kind of scan a whole list and give us, who's this class? What kind of common things do we have? What kind of outliers do we have? We're going to learn about who we are as an audience. Do you like this active way of doing it? I hope so. Emma, what are the directions? What do they have to do here as soon as I say that? Yeah, and so they have to walk around the whole class, right? What she did was give me something with feedback that I could clarify or expand on. Go. Nope, you don't have to sign your name. Is right 06-1 at the top of that in spring 2020, like on all of them? Like Range Buffaloes. You guys were the Buffaloes? How small is that school? How many people are in your graduating class?
In my graduating class, there's like 6 of us.
That is small. That
Yeah.
sounds cool though.
There's probably only 3 that went to the high school when I was there.
What do you think about Rome State being right there next to you or right close to you?
I think it's nice to have. I only have to drive like the same amount of time as when I was in high school until I started going here.
Yeah, yeah. Good, good. You know Tanisha pretty good?
I've talked to her a couple times, but I don't see her all the time. Most of my classes have been here.
Okay.
So if they weren't online, it'd be nice.
Well, it's good to have you here. How you doing? All the remotes are for the Apple TVs. You good on an iPad? I've had CTED over here 4 times to try to teach me how to use those things. And I told them one thing, I just quit throwing the remotes. There's like 4 or 5 over here. I said, put a remote box next to each TV and only put the remotes that go with that box. And they're like, oh, well, it says it on there. Like, I'm gonna read that number and look for the TV. And I said, no, just do what I need. Keep it simple for me. Someday we'll.
I think one of the business
Is what?
is actually
Which one, Bucky's?
Chick-fil-A.
Oh, is it really? Where?
They said they bought property.
I'm so excited. Cool. I heard speeches on that. A lot of generally each term, I have somebody say, we need to Chick-fil-A. That's exciting. They seem to have not only good food, but really good professional service. Yeah. I can't see why I would do that. You're allowed to talk in here. That's a great question, Haley. If it's already written down, do you write it down again? If you want to make it 2 tallies next to, like 1 tally for the person there and then you, that's cool.
Yeah, sure, do that.
Are you guarding this one, Steve?
Yes.
You're not going to fill out the rest?
I already did.
Oh, wow, you're fast. Okay, I'm gonna see that. That's twice I've said, maybe she's good, she's fast. She got the job done.
Dunlop not too far from here is getting like a real big commercial.
Yeah. Do you really want one? I mean, we'll stick with our little one. Drive to Knoxville. My daughter lives in Maryville. She and her family. So I have to, if I go 140 to get to Maryville, I'm always passing that airport. I do appreciate that. Next to me. That's so cool. When'd you move here?
Oh, I didn't, I drive all the way from Crossville.
No. You can do what's local for you. Yeah.
Okay.
I've had people do all really cool, like unique stores that are in Pikeville because they drive from Pikeville. And so, no, do something that's local to you, man. That'd be great. We'd love to know more. It's very interesting to find out more about things that aren't right here. How you doing? We're finished? We're not finished.
Like, what if we do if we are personally finished?
You roll your thumbs.
Okay.
And tap your foot.
Okay. Done yet?
I'll know what that means when you tell me. All right. I need a paper for I need a student for every paper. I want you to grab one of the papers and come on up here. We'll put it up on the board and you can stand by it. Come on, come on, come on, come on. No, that's come a chameleon. Come on, come on. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, next 2. Kind of scan that paper. There you go. That one.
I'm sorry.
One more. There you go. Okay. You want to know who we are? I think I gave her a magnet already. Let's hear about our greatest joys.
Okay, so some of our greatest joy, we all share in this class is that what I picked up from this paper is that we all like summer and we all like traveling. We all like being around family or friends. Some of us like long car rides. There's something that says my niece, which that goes along with friends. We just all like summer vibes. I do.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, tell us yours, Addison.
This is something few know about me. A lot of these have to do with family.
Can y'all hear her well? Okay.
Some of these are pretty cool. I've got ones. I can play 4 instruments. There's a few here about having a broken bone. Let's see, an extra bone in the foot, double joints in both arms. So those are pretty cool. And there's some that are just like to play sports, live on a farm. So have a few siblings.
Good, good. Here we are. What's next?
There's a lot of some of the biggest concerns that most people have, and from looking at the paper, I see that we're all concerned about our finances and like how what we need for our basic life necessities and stuff, and the failure of college, and
The failure of college?
and like being
Oh, they're
able-
fearful of college, failure.
yeah, and everyone just wants to succeed in what they want to do in life, to be able to have the best life that they've always wanted. So.
Well done.
So I got my favorite food, and there's a lot of people who have good taste in food. Some people are decisive. But there's like pizza, chicken, fried rice, mac and cheese. This is really awesome.
Protein and carbs, huh? Meat and potatoes.
I got my current thoughts, and a lot of them were talking about being tired or being hungry and just being stressed out and not really sure where you're at. So
Okay. Wait till finals. Have y'all had a finals yet?
yeah,
When you get all those papers due at once? Yeah. By the way, you're gonna be glad that we'll have a paper, but it won't be like 10 pages with references kind of thing. And it'll be, I think you'll find my class is not as difficult perhaps.
I got a word that describes my values. Some of those are trustworthy, loyal, Christian values. There were several of those. Family-oriented, caring, integrity. Y'all seem like y'all are really great people. So.
I'd make that same summary statement. I sure would. Good, good.
Okay, so I got the name of 2 local beneficial businesses, organizations, or resources, or ones that we need. So like the
And can
most,
you kind of, I know you're reading,
Oh.
but can you kind of talk to them too? Cool.
the most common one is the Avalon Center. I thought that was pretty cool because I didn't know a lot of people knew about that. So that's really good. And then there were a lot of like things that like help the needy. So there were homeless shelters and food banks and like Threads of Hope and things like that. And then that's what most of those were. So that really like describes our class as a whole. Like we want to help others.
And I could not have summarized that better. She made a presumption based on the data, the information she's came up with. Me value. Okay, so we have done what we need as far as knowing who our audience is. With that knowledge, since I have 5 more minutes, how would you consider crafting some of your message? Because you need to tell your truth. And if you're an outlier and you're like, way too much money goes over here, and you have a different opinion, that is absolutely valid. How would you craft your message, say, if you thought people needed to stand up on their feet more, or hit that person back if they're abusing you, or whatever else? If you thought differently, how would you craft your message to somebody who says, the Avalon Center is like really important? Knowing your audience will help, and knowing your message will help you be able to grab the ethos, the pathos, and the logos of them, so that they'll connect with your message. and maybe be one of those neutral people. I thought I had an opinion, but based on what you said, I shifted it. And I see the value of what you're saying. I'm not gonna answer that before questions. I don't know how that's a good example. I'm going to say thank you for your participation today. I hope you found that our lecture gave you lots of good information, and I hope that you'll find that it applies to you when you start to do your students. Bring this back next time, and we'll complete our days of fundamentals. Your homework will be on homework day 2 on the course outline. Somebody help her get to the course outline. Okay, so she sees how it's laid out, going day by day. Okay, help Savannah, please, help your friends. The thing I love about this class is we help each other. What's Dropbox assignment? Dropbox test?
Yes.
Dropbox test, I think says on the course outline that it's due by day 3. And certainly you can read carefully. That activity is all about the fact that other college teachers don't tell you 15 different ways how and when things are due. And so you need to read carefully and follow directions. You're allowed to submit it more than once. Does that help, Colby?
I was not sure.
Are you the one that turned it in? There's a couple people that have already turned it in, and one's got a 0. It has to be perfect before I give you 100. Oh, okay. I wonder if you did it correctly. I'll let you know. All right. Be well, my friends. I'll see you Thursday. Oh, and I'll see you tomorrow. You can sign up for Eco Club or Rotaract or Campus Activity Board. Bye, Jesse. Feel better.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, ma'am. What were you going to ask? Riley's going to ask a question.